Hi, I want to wish all of you a very happy Passover, a Zissen Pesach, a wonderful holiday coming up. I know things are not exactly as the way we'd wish, but they still can be really, really beautiful. And I just want to share a couple thoughts with you about charoset. It seems like I'm always talking about Jews and food, and it's because yeah, of course I am. It is such a powerful part of our lives and also teaches us so much. I'm going to begin though with a song. Don't worry, I'm not going to sing it for you, but it's a very famous Israeli song called Al Kol Ela. And it says, Al Kol Ela shmorna li Eli hatov, al hadvash va'al ha'oketz, va'al hamar va'ahmatok. Over all these things, God, please watch over us, over the honey and the bee that may sting, over the bitter and the sweet. And so much of about Judaism is really about finding sweetness when life seems bitter. Sometimes we get so wrapped up in how difficult things are, we forget how beautiful they still can be too. At the very first seder, the one that the Jews celebrated while they were still slaves in Egypt, there were only three foods. They had the matzah, there was the roast lamb, and there was the maror, the bitter herbs. We added two things ourselves later on that were not originally part of it. One thing that was added was wine, which I don't think I need to explain that one. But also charoset is not mentioned in the original Seder. That's something that gets added later. Charoset is the very sweet fruit and nut relish that we eat with our seder, and it is very, very delicious. And there are all sorts of different kinds of recipes. I would suggest for the seder, if there's one that you always make traditionally, make that one. But look up a different one too. Maybe that's what's different from the other nights. There are people who say that the charoset symbolizes the mortar of the bricks that the Hebrew slaves had to make while they were in Egypt. But that never really made a lot of sense to me because charoset is really sweet and delicious. And if it was supposed to symbolize the mortar of the bricks, maybe it would have been, I don't know, chopped liver. Unless, of course, you really like chopped liver, and then my apologies. The word charoset comes from the word cheres, which means clay, but it really means a kind of a paste. And again, I mentioned it's very sweet and it's very delicious. So I'd like to share some other reasons about why we have the charoset. The first is how we eat it and when we eat it at the Seder. When we eat the maror, when we eat the bitter herbs, we always eat it with the charoset. We never eat each one completely separately at the Seder. We always have them together. There's always a combination of the bitter and the sweet. And sometimes it's helpful to think about that what is bitter in our lives is really about what we can't be doing, and what is sweet is about what we can. So when we're at a time where there's so much bitterness of the things that we can't do, maybe we need to remind ourselves there's so many things that we can do. And this is really a great metaphor for life, that no life is completely sweet. Everyone has challenges, but no life is completely bitter. There are opportunities for sweetness no matter how difficult things are. And part of what we have to think about is which is really dominant for us. Do we find life mostly bitter with moments of sweetness, or is it mostly sweet with moments of bitterness? This is not always dependent on our circumstances, but very often our approach to things. Now, some of our lives are really hard, and I will never diminish how difficult things are for people, but sometimes our perspective, sometimes our approach can really make a difference. And this brings me to another reason for why we have the charoset, what the meaning of it is the recipe for the charoset is actually found in Shir HaShirim, the Song of Songs, which we read on Passover at services. And the Song of Songs is about lovers who compare each other to fruit and to wine and spices, which is really, that's what the charoset is. And it is considered to be a relationship also between God and the Jewish people. that it is a relationship that brings sweetness and beauty even when things are very challenging. And I think it's powerful that we added charoset to the seder during the worst of Roman persecutions in the first and second centuries. If you think about how bitter their lives were, the destruction of the temple, the exile, they chose sweetness. The commandment of the Torah was to have the bitter herbs, but they decided to add the charoset, to add the sweetness as well. And it really means that our connection to each other, our connection to God and our tradition has really gotten us through so many tough times and got us through with joy. And I think this is a powerful idea for the times we live in. And it's a great example for our children, grandchildren, anyone in the next generation. We can face our fears and our challenges and our disappointments, and we can decide that life is sweet and precious anyway, and we can bring that sweetness to others. There is often not a lot we can do about the circumstances of our lives, though if things are really bad, we should really try to change them. But we can focus on all the good things that are happening even during tough times. We are the memories of the future. May those memories always be sweet. I wish you a wonderful, sweet, and happy, very, very sweet holiday.